Today we are building a Next.js React web app using ChatGPT. I'm going to be migrating my personal portfolio from GoDaddy editor to a new React web app. It's going to be hosted on Vercel and stored in Bitbucket. So I'm going to walk you through the whole process shortly. This is the main site. I built this a couple of years ago while I was in Mexico. It was a lot of fun to build, and now I can build it much better. So I want to do a rebrand and change some of the color scheme. I found this antique map, and I'm using this as the reference for the new style guide. So I went ahead and uploaded this to ChatGPT and asked it to create a new style guide based on this image. And what it came back with was a set of colors, text, accents, etc. And it gave me the Tailwind and global CSS style sheets. So I'm not doing this video on how Next.js works. Instead, it's going to be how I use ChatGPT to build Next.js web apps. So this is Visual Studio Code, where we're going to be making all of the updates to the website. It's running locally here, so this is the current index page of the new app that I started, and I've already connected it to Bitbucket and Vercel, so any changes that I make and upload will be automatically reflected on the internet. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and just start copying over content from the main page. I'm going to add and update stuff as I go along, and I'll add some commentary as necessary. So ChatGPT's new projects is pretty sweet because it allows us to keep all of my clients' websites as I build them separate and accessible. So I can add all of the files as we build them to the project, and this allows ChatGPT and each of the threads within it to keep track of all of the project files and everything without me having to constantly copy and paste it back over, so it knows what we're working on. So here we're going to create a new project, Wandering Interest. And we're going to attach some of the basic project files. So this is the global style sheet and Tailwind file that we decided on. As well as the current version of the homepage, which is always under index when we create a new Next.js web app. And I added those to the chat thread instead of to the project. So to add files to the project, we do it here. Now all of the chat threads in this conversation have access to those 3 project files, and it knows what the look and feel of the website's going to be. So I'm going to let it know that I attached those files. So here I just prefaced the ChatGPT thread with what we're working on, give it some aim and an idea to contextualize what we're going to be building. It's gives it some guardrails to work within, so it knows that we're building a Next.js app. It knows that it has access to the project files, the Tailwind file, the global style sheet, as well as that this is what we expect the styles to look like. So for the rest of the time that we build this, it should remember this. It should automatically apply those styles as we go through and create new pages, and I shouldn't have to tell it each time to make updates or changes. So the first thing we're going to do is work on the navbar. So we're going to create a new component in Visual Studio, and currently we don't have a components folder. This is a pretty common approach in software development with these types of projects, is to have a components folder. In the root of the file. So with that, we're going to create the navbar, and we'll tell ChatGPT what we're doing. Okay, a couple things here on what I'm doing. So I took a screenshot of the old header. This is pretty awesome because on my computer it's Windows Shift S. That gives me a screenshot. I can copy or I can paste that directly into the chat thread, and it can analyze that image and know what those links are, what the words are in there, the spacing between them, and the layout. So it automatically created that header for me and wrote all of the code. All I have to do here is copy it to a new component called header.js, as it told us. So here under components, we create header.js, we copy the code over, and we save it. So now that we have it as a reusable component, we need to import it onto the index page. So we're going to move back to ChatGPT, and we're going to ask it to update the index page to use the new header. I have a habit, because I've been using this since ChatGPT 2, I think, of copying and pasting. So I added those project files, and I could have just said update the header, and it would have reviewed the project files and pulled it from the index file there. It's just part of my workflow. One thing that's a little bit weird about ChatGPT's new I don't know what they call this. I think they call it document editor, is it doesn't change or update the title when printing different pages. So it can get a little bit confusing. This is the index or homepage, not the header, even though it's labeled as such. So Next.js allows hot reloading, meaning whenever you make an update, it reflects immediately. This is actually a super common error that we get with ChatGPT all the time when developing, specifically in React, is it uses outdated forms of code. So in this case, it's using link with a child, which is legacy behavior. So we have to let it know, never use an a tag. and ask it to print it again. So we'll get that file back, update it, and we should see that change and that error go away. So here we got another error. This can happen front loaded on projects. Sometimes it takes a little bit to get ChatGPT kind of aligned with the process and how we're going to be doing it. So oftentimes it'll make a couple of mistakes like this. You tell it what the error is and it tends to fix it itself. So in this case, we didn't import link from Next.js. And so we were getting an error when we were using link as we hadn't defined it. So pretty easy fix. I probably could have just typed it in, but I like to do this from the standpoint of not writing any software because it's getting more and more efficient as we go along, and I don't want to build bad habits. So human error is much more common than AI error. In this case, I was updating the index page instead of the header page to try and remove those A tags. That error was actually coming from the header. So that's why we were seeing it not fix itself as we went along. And hopefully that will clear that last error. Okay, so we can see here it came out a little wonky, but we're in the right direction now. So let's make a couple quick refinements to it. So now I just tend to make continuous refinements until I get it where I want it to be. I find that the further we go along in the project, the more intuitive the chat thread becomes to what I'm looking for and how the site should work, if that makes sense. So at the beginning, we often find a couple of weird oddities like that header coming up in the middle of the screen instead of at the top of the screen. But as we kind of refine it and go along, it tends to catch up. I've also noticed that sometimes ChatGPT is just not all there, and other times it's really, really on the ball. I think this has a lot to do with OpenAI making continuous updates. Some of them don't work too well, but they tended to fix them out pretty fast. So here we got a decent header. I'm not in love with it, but it's great for now. It kind of gives us a starting point to start working on this main page. So that banner on this one is out of date. This is going to go, I think we're completely rebranding. Yeah. So let's skip that for now and jump into the content. So again, we're going to take a screenshot and we're going to call this the bio section. It's just got some information about me and what I do. And we're going to put that up there and then start adjusting it to be a little bit more targeted towards what I'm looking to do next, which is start building web apps with AI. I want to build 1,000 of these this year. So far, I think I'm hovering around 20, and they all take me a couple hours to build. It's not a huge investment of my time, and each time that I do it, I get much better at it. I get much more in sync, and I'm able to build all of them exactly the same, which makes maintenance really, really easy. And also having access to the project folders. Now every single one of my clients has their own project folder that has all of their project files in it already. So if I need to go in and make an update, say to this information, I can just go in, tell ChatGPT to update the main page about me section with this new information, and it's going to be able to do that really, really quickly, which is pretty exciting. So let's create a new About Me section for the home page. We'll do a new component for this as well. And let's just call it About. We're also going to go ahead and copy and paste the content from this part. That way it doesn't make any mistakes trying to translate the text from the image. Normally it doesn't. I found that it's gotten better at getting it as well, but I like to be thorough as I miss stuff pretty often. So here it told us to put it in components about.js. We'll go ahead and create that new component. And that component is going to contain this code. Now we need to add it back to the home page so we can include this new about section. And once it finishes this, we can go back in and update the project files to include the new updated components and homepage. That way it's working with the most recent information possible. Okay, so we captured part of it. Not quite perfect, but that's okay. We'll continue refining this a little bit as we go along. Get this section done so that we have a good piece of content to look at on the homepage, and then start adding the rest of it as we go along. Probably didn't catch that, but I noticed that Welcome to the Wandering Interest, the innovation hub of Denim Brandle, is included in the code, which means it should be showing on the page. But the way that ChatGPT built it, it's actually hidden behind the header right now. So we need to do a little bit of work to make sure that that header is sticky, stays at the top, and is properly built. So we'll ask it to update that next. So this part's just a habit that I tend to build up. We can update the document.js page to import and include, sorry, the app.js. That was weird that it didn't catch my error there. So I wasn't sure if it was the app.js or the document.js that we update. But it's the app.js, and it went ahead and printed the document.js, which didn't change. So that didn't make much sense. But I think that's part of the document that they recently released, this portion here. So now we've imported the header in the app, and that should allow it to display on every page without us having to import it on each page. So we'll update the index page to remove the header, and it should just be on every page from there on out. Again, in this case, I'm having ChatGPT make all of the updates. Whenever it makes a mistake or we see something wrong, I'm going to ask it to fix it. That way you can see that there's actually zero coding that goes into this. I don't write any code on any of these for the most part. Now, I've gotten better and faster at it, so oftentimes if it's something simple like removing the header from the index page, it's only 2 lines that you have to delete. I'll go in there and do that just to speed up my workflow, but it's not even necessary. Okay, so the app document is a primary document. I think anytime we update that, we need to reload the server. Otherwise, we're not going to see those changes reflected. So what I did here was close down the current running local version of the project and then relaunch it. So we should be able to refresh and see that most recent update made and the header on this homepage. If not, we'll have to go in and have ChatGPT troubleshoot it, see why we're not displaying that header on every page. All right, so what I did here was update all of the project files in this particular project, and then I reloaded it so that we could see the existing chat that we were already working on. So opening that back up, we're going to let it know that we updated all of the changed files and that we're having an issue seeing the header on the index page, even though we updated the app.js. So let's see what it comes back with. It's a fix. I'm going to need to go back and watch the video to understand what just happened there. I'm quite sure the last version of the app.js imported the header, but it's showing here that the one that we updated did not have it. So updating it again seems to have fixed that. That's a really odd one, but let's go ahead and keep moving. So I'm breaking this up the way that I am because I intend to change this around later and delete certain parts of it. I just want to capture as much of the original website as possible, get it moved over to the new one, and then start rearranging the components in what order that they're going in. I also intend to do some advertising on my web development services here on the Wandering Interest website. So I'm going to create some new cool call to actions there, showing off what we're doing. thing I've noticed, which I think I wish ChatGPT would release in a new feature here soon, is the ability to update the project files directly from the chat thread. So if it was tracking as we made each update to the index as we went along, we wouldn't have to constantly remove the old index file and re-upload a new one as a project file for it to refer to. So because of that, and because we're doing component, then back to index, it's not remembering the index currently, it's trying to pull it from the project files, which is the out-of-date version. They need to get better at releasing polished features. This one isn't excellent. All right, images are interesting. So, that's trying to save as a WebP file. That won't work. Give me 1 second. Let's run through. Okay, so we got a couple options here. We could go into the GoDaddy editor and manually save all of these images back from it, which would probably give us the highest quality files, but I like to take shortcuts in this case because the quality of the image isn't going to be that much lossless with the window screen shot capture. So I went ahead and just screenshotted that image. I'm going to drop it into the public folder in the wandering interest, and I'm going to name it homepage robots so that I know which one it is. And then we're going to pass that information to ChatGPT. We can also do home 1. I'm actually going to do that, home 1, 2, and 3. That way we can easily refer to it. So that's home 1. This is home 2. And this is home 3. So images are definitely the most labor-intensive part of this whole process. ChatGPT really can't automate that part for me. So it's just something that I have to manually copy over every time. That slows me down probably more than anything else, but it's part of the game. One issue I've noticed is capitalization matters, especially with images, and it'll actually show images with the capital letter if you call them with the lowercase letter in your development environment, but once you go to production, you get errors on all of those. So it can be really frustrating trying to track down that error later on. It's better to keep everything case sensitive right from the beginning. Since I told it where those images are located and what their names are, it should automatically import them in the correct places based on the screenshot. It's going to format all of it for me. I forgot to tell it that those are PNGs and not JPGs, so that would have caused us an error had I not just seen that. Control F searches, we find each instance of JPG, and we're just going to replace it with PNG. And we need to update the index page to include the new project section. And that part's done. So I don't like those buttons at all. We'll go ahead and update those a little bit later. We could probably create a common style for all buttons. If one doesn't already exist already, I'm sure that it does. We're going to update it because that looks awful. It's also obviously out of line, so we'll go ahead and update ChatGPT and let it know what happened. It's probably because I took those screenshots at different sizes, so it's trying to compensate for that. It should be able to stretch that image out and match it in line. So let's see what it can do. You might have noticed I always use please and thank you with my AI. I'm pretty sure that they are set to take over the world, and we're all going to be working for them here in the next couple of years. So I like to be polite just to really set that precedence early. We'll see what happens. Alright, as we can see, that's still coming out a little bit funky. This is because of the way that I copy and pasted those just to move quick. I'll go ahead and go back later and grab the original images. That way they're all at the right size, which I did a couple of years ago already. No reason to do that again. So later on, I'll log into GoDaddy, grab those images, replace them in that file folder. For now, I'll leave it how it is. We'll ignore that section for the moment, and that'll look better by the time y'all come back and review this. So let's keep going and build the next section. It's just a simple connect with me. We'll improve this a little bit later. For these two icons, we're going to use React icons. That works really well for web apps. Mobile apps, we would use something different, but it imports them directly, and then we can adjust the colors, so we don't have to do anything fancy there. Alright guys, so React Icons is a library. If you're new to software development, what that means is it's a third-party piece of code that somebody built that works really well. I think it was built by React in this case, which I believe was created by Facebook. But there's all kinds of libraries out there to do all kinds of different things. If you need certain CSS animations, you want icons, you want a login button, all kinds of different things can all be imported with different libraries. Google Maps is a library, as well as an API. So just a lot of different things you can do with libraries. ChatGPT knows them all. You don't really have to worry about knowing which library you should use and which one you shouldn't. Generally, it's pretty good at being consistent and using them as well. So if you go with one framework or another, it's going to continue making recommendations within that framework as you go along. So in this case, I specified React icons. Anywhere else that we see icons throughout the website, it's going to go ahead and use React icons since we already installed it. To install it, we need to jump over into Visual Studio Code. We need to shut down the currently running version, run an npm install on React icons, and then we can get right back to work. So this is going to take a minute to install. In the meantime, we're going to make the updates to the website. I was trying to figure out what went wrong there, and it looks like we copied the connect page component incorrectly. So we'll need to go ahead and update that real quick to fix why it's not displaying. It didn't like something we did there, so I went ahead and shut down the local server and restarted it. That usually clears up any issues that you see, any weirdness that happens. Alright, so that's pretty close to the home page. We're missing the main banner. I'm going to go ahead and work on that separately, as that's not within the scope of this video. And now we're going to move on to the next pages. So building pages is much easier after the home page is done. It kind of knows the styles and the way that we're doing things. We'll make some updates. I'm not totally in love. I think this is a little bit bland, and there's some spice that I want to add to it, get it a little bit closer to that antique map look that I was shooting for when I originally started the style sheet. But let's go ahead and run through the different projects that I've done and those subpages from the blog. And then from there, we'll probably make some updates for the CTAs, as well as a running list of how many web apps we've built under the Wandering Interest. Again, we have a goal of getting to 1,000. I think right now we're sitting about 20. I want to put a plug on here that measures them. Each time that we build one, I'm going to launch it on YouTube, showing how I did it, as well as update my main website so that everybody can keep track of how many we've built and what our goal is. So here I went ahead and just entered the subpage for the Everyday Robot project part of the blog, and it searched it, it found all the information on it. It can now see how that page was displayed. So now I can simply ask it, build this page, and it's going to go ahead and do that. First, I'll capture those images and I'll mark them for it so that it knows where the images are, and hopefully it's going to lay it out exactly the same with the new styles. Let's see how well it does on the first pass. So, quick plug on what we're doing here. This was the Everyday Robot project. This was my time at Google. I spent about 4 years there as a mechatronics engineer working on the Everyday Robot project. So this was an incredible project. I scaled this from, I think there was 15 robots when I arrived to 125 in the fleet when I left. We deployed them across 3 different campuses in the Bay Area, about 10 to 15 robots per campus, and I oversaw all of their daily operations. So generally my job was to keep the robots running, ensure that all of the new software coming out landed perfectly and didn't cause any issues on the robot, as well as any hardware upgrades or updates that we did. A lot of troubleshooting, a lot of reliability and characterization, a lot of deep software troubleshooting on this project as well. It was pretty amazing how advanced these were, how advanced the computers were in these, as well as the AI that was powering it, which you can find if you go to Google DeepMind. They have a very, very interesting neural net and AI system that they've been working on for many years that, in my opinion, is probably far more advanced than even ChatGPT is at this time. So this was a great time in my life. I really enjoyed this point in my career, and yeah, let's keep going. One important thing here, you can see this one under pages, projects, then the everyday robot project. This is having this subfolder here is what allows us to actually have that drop down that we see on the original website here. So we can click projects and it drops down to a list of projects, and each of those are categorized under that primary point. We can replicate that in Next.js by simply creating under the pages a new folder called projects, and under projects is going to be each page related to that project's dropdown. In this case, everyday robots is the first one. So we'll add that now. Now remember, because we created the header as a component, as we go in and update it with the new links, it's going to be updated across all of the pages, especially because we put it into the app.js and it shows up on every subpage that we create. So now we never really have to mess with the header again. We update the component directly if we need to make any changes or new links to it. Other than that, we don't touch it on any of the pages that it actually sits on. So it did a really poor job on that one, I think, because it got that summary from that search and then applied the summary to it instead of the search. So a couple things we could do here. We could go in and copy all of the content, or we could ask it to search again and try and reformat it closer to the original. Let's give that a shot. That way it's less manual intervention that we have to do and more autonomous on its side. But the search and then integrate functionality at this time with ChatGPT 4.0 is not super reliable. Let's see how it goes. So I ended up taking a hybrid approach to that. I had it search for the website itself as well as gave it the content. I have no idea what it's going to do here. It could just take the content I gave it and try and plug it back into the page that it had just built, or it could actually try and search the internet to find the formatting at the same time, although I highly doubt it. So let's see what this looks like now that it's done. Okay, so it looks like it took the content that I gave it and it plugged it into the page, but it didn't actually look at the web page itself for the formatting. So I think what I'll do here is go ahead and just start taking screenshots from top to bottom, and let's see how it does with that. thing I've noticed here is it can go a little wonky with how it does padding, margins, and different things like that. I think there's a couple different industry standards for how this is done. I prefer Flex. It seems to work really well. It avoids using any hard-coded values or sizes, and everything seems to fit when you're consistently using Flex throughout the website. So I probably should have called it out earlier and told it to be doing that from the beginning. Oftentimes ChatGPT is a lot smarter than this, can do things a little bit more intelligently. In this case, I probably should have just gone section by section as I built this page. It would have been significantly faster, probably saved us 20 or 30 minutes worth of work here. So for the rest of the pages, I'm just going to go section by section, taking screenshots as I go along, copying the content over. That should make it go along quicker. I think we're going to stop here for the evening. We got through the main page as well as one of the sub pages. Got the style mostly down, a lot of the images transferred over, and the general layout theme for the website done. So I'm pretty happy with the progress that I made. In about an hour, I was able to get 2 pages up. That's pretty significant. At the same time, I was recording and trying to talk through what I was doing, which slows me down quite a bit. And like I said, as we get further into each project, the AI seems to kind of pick up on how it's supposed to be. So because we're breaking down the first project page, it's a little bit more difficult to get that formatting correctly. But once we do have the format correct, we can copy it as a template over to the rest of them and move pretty quickly through it. So I'll probably pick this up again tomorrow in a part 2 of the video where I'm sure we'll be able to finish it. But for now, I think this is pretty good. So thanks, guys, for checking it out. I hope you took some value away from it.